Welcome, hello, and welcome to day 3 of the No Complaints Challenge here on the Miracles Attraction community page of Facebook. I'm Teresa McGallagher, and I've been joined this week by my partner, Carly Hardy, in this challenge that we've created especially for you to bring more joy into your life. So on Monday, Carly came on and talked about the benefits of dropping the bad habit of complaints. And the benefit is a more miraculous life. When you let go of complaining and the complaints that take up space in your mind, you make space for miracles to come into your life. So that's a good motivation and a good reason to shifting this type of thinking and behavior. And then on day 2, Carly asked you to look at the types of things that you typically complain about, the types of issues that bother you and that create resistance in your mind, whether it's things in the external world that you don't like, or whether it's the behavior of people in your life or people who maybe are not even in your life but are in the news, and to make a list of the kinds of things that you tend to put your attention on, your negative attention and focus, and the stories that you tell yourselves about those people and those things, and the kinds of complaints that you are in the habit of entertaining, because without awareness, nothing can ever change. So our challenge is to look at our thoughts, see what kinds of complaints we have before we can release them. You can't let something go if you're not even aware of the fact that it's there. So complaining about things that are going on in the world and out in the external 3D reality is a losing battle. Byron Katie says, when you fight reality, you lose every single time. So what's the point in that? We don't want to put energy and attention and focus on that when we could be putting it on other more productive things. And that's what I want to talk about today on day 3 of our challenge, is creativity and how releasing complaints increases creativity. Now, you might think creativity isn't a big deal for you because you're not an artist, or you're not a musician, or you're not a photographer, or you're not a writer, or you don't do these typically creative types of pursuits. But creativity is so much more than that, because you're either destroying or you're creating. It's one or the other. The ego mind always looks to take people down a notch, criticize, complain, and destroy. And the higher mind is the creative mind. This is the part of your mind that is able to find creative solutions to problems, that's able to think outside the box. So certainly anything we can do to enhance that feature of our mind is worth doing. Now, it's Wednesday, it's over the hump day, and this is the middle of our challenge, and you may find that not complaining for 3 days in a row is difficult. But this is typical. This is how the ego mind works. We decide to do something, we make a decision, and then we commit to doing it, and we get started, and then all of a sudden, all kinds of temptation comes up. Whenever we decide that we're going to do something differently, temptation will flare up. And this happened to me yesterday. I was very aggravated, and I was tempted to complain about someone. But instead, I decided, instead of just telling the story of how annoying they were, I would reframe the story as a humorous and entertaining a story, and shift the energy that was involved with that. So this isn't about denying reality. It's not about like pretending that the things that bother us aren't out there. Obviously, they're out there, but it's about looking into our mind, seeing how they're bothering us, who's bothering us, what's bothering us, asking us why they're bothering us. And the answer is always because of resistance. It's always because I want something to be different. I want someone to act differently. I want reality to change. That's a pointless endeavor. So we can reframe that. We can look at what's going on and we can remind ourselves that A Course in Miracles says, I don't know what anything is for. I give everything I see the meaning that it has for me, and I can choose to have it a different meaning assigned to it. I can choose to look at it differently. I can have a shift in perception, shift in perspective, and I can say, instead of this thing or this person is an annoying, aggravating aspect of my life, I can choose to look at it and laugh and let it go and forgive it. So I want to tell you about the experience that I had when I stopped complaining. And I have a visual aid for you. This is how my mind used to feel for most of my life. I had all these thoughts inside, negative ones, positive ones, plans, opinions, judgments, and they were all tangled up. And I would have a thought, and I would try to follow it, but then I'd get distracted by another thought, and then I'd see somebody doing something I didn't like, and my mind would go here, and it was just a mess. It was hard to stay in love and bliss and flow with this kind of mindset. But when I stopped complaining, when I stopped giving energy to that activity, it was as if my mind became aligned and straightened out. And I was able to have a thought and follow it through and focus on it and stay positive. I always choose a positive thought and then I stay with it. And all that other mess didn't happen anymore. So this is the benefit of our challenge this week. I encourage you to stick with it no matter what kind of resistance comes up for you, because the payoff is huge. And my husband will tell you that I used to be a bitch. That's his story. When we were dating, I was lots of fun. I was carefree and, interesting to be with and enjoyable to be with and, putting all my best foot forward. And then we got married and I started to be annoyed by him making messes or things that the children were doing or whatever was going on in the world. And suddenly I became this very unpleasant person to live with. But when I put this into practice and chose a positive thought and stayed there and did not allow myself to get swayed and distracted by the complaints, everything shifted. And he will tell you that he used to have a bitchy wife and now he has a lovely wife. But I'm the same person. So this is the power of your thoughts. Now, I want to read a short excerpt for you from a book that I'm currently reading by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's called Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. And I found this very synchronistic because Carly and I decided to do this challenge, and then right afterwards I came upon this chapter called A Trick. So Liz Gilbert says, here's a trick. Stop complaining. Trust me on this. There are many good reasons to stop complaining if you want to live a more creative life. First of all, it's annoying. Every artist complains, so it's a dead and boring topic. Second, of course it's difficult to create things. If it wasn't difficult, everyone would be doing it, and it wouldn't be special or interesting. Third, nobody ever really listens to anyone else's complaints anyhow, because we're all too focused on our own holy struggle. So basically, you're just talking to a brick wall. Fourth, and most importantly, you are scaring away inspiration. Every time you express a complaint about how difficult and tiresome it is to be creative, inspiration takes another step away from you, offended. It's almost like inspiration puts up its hands and says, hey, sorry, buddy, I didn't realize my presence was such a drag. I'll take my business elsewhere. I have felt this phenomenon in my own life whenever I start complaining. I have felt the way my self-pity slams the door on inspiration, making the room feel suddenly cold, small, and empty. That being the case, I took this path as a young person, I started telling myself that I enjoyed my work. I proclaimed that I enjoyed every single aspect of my creative endeavors, the agony and the ecstasy, the success and the failure, the joy and the embarrassment, the dry spells and the grind and the stumble and the confusion and the stupidity of it all. I even dared to say this aloud. I told the universe that I was committed to living a creative life, not in order to save the world, not as an act of protest, not to become famous, not to gain entrance to the canon, not to challenge the system, not to show the bastards, not to prove to my family that I was worthy, not as a form of deep therapeutic emotional catharsis, but simply because I liked it. So try saying this: I enjoy my creativity. And when you say it, be sure to actually mean it. For one thing, it will freak people out. I believe that enjoying your work with all your heart is the only truly subversive position left to take as a creative person these days. It's such a gangster move because hardly anybody ever dares to speak of creative enjoyment aloud for fear of not being taken seriously as an artist. So say it. Be the weirdo who dares to enjoy. Best of all, though, by saying that you delight in your work, you will draw inspiration near. Inspiration will be grateful to hear those words coming out of your mouth because inspiration, like all of us, appreciates being appreciated. Inspiration will overhear your pleasure and it will send ideas to your door as a reward for your enthusiasm and your loyalty. More ideas than you could ever use. Enough ideas for 10 lifetimes. So this is my challenge to you. Wake up every morning and say, I enjoy my life. I love my life. Today is going to be a fantastic day. Commit to your joy and refuse to get sidetracked by the complaints and the temptations. And then see how life unfolds for you. Please feel free to leave a comment down below and let us know what kind of complaints you've been noticing, how successful you're doing with letting go of the complaining habit, and how life may or may not be shifting for you. And then tomorrow, Carly will be back for day 4 of our challenge. Thanks so much for joining me. So great to see all of you on here. Have a wonderful day.